Hey everyone, Kurant here, and welcome back to my cancer story. Last time we talked about support networks, which means I talked about you. Yes, you. And how awesome you all were in terms of supporting me through everything that I went through in terms of my cancer diagnosis and treatment. Today, we talk about victory, because that essentially is going to be the subject of this discussion, at least. So, of course, I mentioned earlier that I went through 6 rounds of chemotherapy treatments, which went from late August until early November. Thing is, we had a pretty good idea, Mom and Leaf and everybody else and I, that I had beaten my cancer by treatment 4. Because after those first 4 treatments, they wanted me to do another PET scan to see just how things were going, how the treatment was working, and it came back clear completely. But my oncologist in our follow-up meeting said, okay, this is good, but nobody stops at 4. Nobody. Because there's always a chance that it might come back, that maybe the PET scan missed something or something like that. In other words, we still needed to do treatments to keep things going, to really make sure that we nailed this sucker right in the coffin. So I did 2 more treatments, and that took me through, as I mentioned, to early November. That last treatment was it, though. Once we got those other 2 treatments done, that was all I needed, fortunately, because when we were getting ready, Dr. Hull had mentioned that we're going to do chemotherapy, but depending on how I responded, essentially, I might end up needing to go on to do radiation treatments, which are a different sort of animal, and I don't know a whole lot about those because I didn't end up needing them. But that's a whole different sort of kettle of fish, if you will. So I always had that in the back of my mind whenever we were going through treatment. However, once we got done, particularly with that 6th treatment, they did another quick analysis on me, and everything was good. Everything was gone. So I got to have a picture with my mom on that last day of treatment. They didn't, you see some cancer places whenever you get done with the last treatment, they have a bell that you ring or something like that. They didn't have that at the cancer center, but they did have the nurses sign a sheet that said I was done. that said that I had finished treatment and that I was good. I still have that sheet. If I can, I will scan it in because I've got a printer scanner thingy behind me. But if I can, I'll scan it in and I'll show it to y'all. I might blot out my last name somehow, I don't know. But I'll show it to you all so that you guys can see it too. And I hope someday to have it framed. I've looked around for frames for 8.5 by 11 because obviously it's a regular size sheet of paper, but I haven't found any yet. So I might need to see if I can find one and get that framed because I want to keep it. That is essentially my memorial, my souvenir, if you will, of my cancer treatment and recovery. So my last day of chemotherapy treatment was in early November, and that didn't mean that I could just immediately completely go back to everything, though, because it was still chemotherapy. Chemotherapy depresses your immune system, and we were in the middle of a pandemic, so I had to be very careful still. So essentially, we kept going as normal. It was around the time that I was grading my students' papers. Fortunately, I think I didn't have that many students at that point, so it wasn't too big a deal. But anyway, so I was grading students' papers, getting things ready for final exams, and I was still here at my apartment, walking around when I could to try to get at least some exercise, but I wasn't really going out or doing anything because, again, immune compromised. At the beginning of December, which ironically was right around my birthday. I think it was the day after my birthday, maybe, I believe, that I had another follow-up with Dr. Hull. And that was when we got the super duper official all clear. That not only was the cancer completely gone, my numbers were back up to normal, or at least relatively normal in terms of immune capacity and so on and so forth. So I could return to all of my normal. I returned to my retail job the next day. Probably not the best idea ever, but it was Christmas time and they really needed the help, so I went back to work the next day. And, well, the Christmas season, of course, was interesting because, well, I mean, it's Christmas season and it's Christmas season in retail, which, that's a subject for another time. But I very much enjoyed just being back to normal, just being more myself again. I started, let's see, I don't remember if I started going back to the gym in December or January, but I eventually started going back to the gym, only to find that my gym was studiously not enforcing mask mandates. I wore them anyway, because still immune compromised. But I was enjoying essentially being back to normal, or really starting to get back to normal. Still had my port, still have my port, and probably will have that for at least the next couple of months or so until Dr. Hall gives the okay for us to go ahead and get it taken out. But yeah, from that point forward, I was normal, or at least, my version of normal again, which was great. It's fantastic. And that's kind of all I have to talk about for this one, to be honest, because I want to do one more episode. And that one more episode essentially is going to be a big catch-up to where I am right now. Right now, today, August... God, what is today? I think today's August 19th? Yeah, 19th. So I'm going to do one more episode talking about kind of where I am at this point in life. And it's going to be more of a general vloggy episode. It's not going to be specifically about cancer, because cancer be gone. And the good news about Hodgkin's lymphoma is when it's gone, it's gone. I'm not in remission. I'm in poof. It's, Alvidazane territory. So I think this last episode of my vlog, at least for now, because I want to do semi-annual episodes, kind of updating it accordingly. But I think what I want to do with this last episode coming up is talk about where life has taken me in the several months since my chemotherapy finished. So pretty much 2021 in a nutshell. So yeah, I know this one's going to be extra short. I have a feeling it's probably less than 10 minutes, honestly. I can't really see what it is in terms of time because I don't have my glasses on, but I have a feeling this one's less than 10 minutes. So apologies for the really short one, but I want to make the how it's going episode, I guess, a bit longer and a bit more general vloggy. We're going to be digging into my brain because some of what I want to talk about is what I've wanted to do with my life since having cancer and getting over it, and how well that's gone and how well it hasn't. So this last episode is going to be digging into my psyche, into my brain, and it's going to be emotional, I think. It's going to be... I usually try to be very optimistic and smiley and that's mostly just how I see things in general, but some of the stuff I'm going to be digging into is probably going to descend a little bit more into not really despair. Well, I don't really want to say despair, but kind of how I feel like, well, I'll get to it. It's not all going to be sunshine and roses, just FYI, but I'll get more into it when we get to that point. So thank you guys as always for watching. I know this is a short one, so those of you who have expressed expressed interest in the fact that I've been doing longer episodes. Sorry. But next one's going to be long. Next one's going to be, I don't know how long, but it's going to be, like I said, psyche digging into my brain, all that jazz. So you'll probably get plenty of content for that one. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. Appreciate it, as always. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. And I will see y'all fairly soon for what will be, at least for now, the final episode of my cancer story.